In studio tonight, we have Stacy Lake on air for an interview. And Stacy just has like a very vast and very it is just, I don't know, it's bossy. I love it. Her background is just so intuitive. She has experience in civil and criminal law, and she also has a background in political affairs. So we're going to get into her personal background and also what she's done in Kansas City and for the state of Missouri so far, because you're bossing out in the whole state. Like, it's not even just a Kansas City thing. Like, it's a statewide boss out. I love it. So more from Stacy Lake. How are you tonight?
I'm doing fine. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thank you for coming in today.
Thank you for inviting me here.
Yes, no problem. So tell me more about you. Are you from Kansas City?
Yeah, so I was born in Kansas City, Missouri, but I was raised on the Kansas side, and I came back to live in Kansas City in 2011. Yeah, after when I went to UMKC Law School, and graduated, and I've been here since.
Okay. Where else did you live?
Well, when I went to university, so I did my university at University of Kansas, and I majored in finance. And when you're majoring in finance at the University of Kansas, you have to take 2 years of language in order to qualify for the degree. And so I decided that I wasn't going to take French because I nearly failed French in high school. And so I wanted to get away from the Romantic languages as far as possible. So only 2 languages kind of resonated with me, and it was Chinese and Urdu. And I saw a report, and this was back in 2004, that Chinese was the most spoken language in the world. And I decided at that time that I would study Chinese. And so that's when I enrolled into the Chinese program. And I just fell in love with the language, and I decided that I was going to really get into Chinese language and add that in as what it turned into as a minor to my degree in finance. And so while I was studying at Kansas University, I had the privilege to spend around 2.5 years 6 months in Beijing, China, and over 2 years in Taipei, Taiwan, studying Chinese language and cultures in order to become a Chinese translator. But initially, the plan was for me to become an attorney. So after I finished my study in Asia, I came back to Kansas City, Missouri, and I enrolled into the law program at University of Missouri, Kansas City, where I graduated with my law degree, and I've been practicing ever since.
Oh, wow, girl, you are brainy. I love it. So are you fluent in Chinese, or?
Fluency is a hard question for me to respond to because many people have different degrees of what they think fluent is. I can speak conversational Chinese, and the last time I was in China was around 10 years ago. Now, as a translator, the highest skill I ever got was advanced low, which is 4 steps away from being fluent. But I never hold myself out to be fluent, but to the average person, they would believe that I'm fluent since I do have, my minor, and I also have 2 minor degrees in Shidu and Taida University.
Oh, wow.
Or, Taiwan National University and National Taiwan University.
Wow, yeah, that's what's up. I never heard of the second language, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah. So it's going to Asia really inspired me because at that time I've never really been out of the country besides going to Europe, and also half of my family's from the Caribbean. And so when I went to Beijing, and then when I went to Taipei, it really broadened my scope of the world because those 2 cities are way more advanced than Kansas City is, or I would even say Kansas or New York City when we compare Shanghai to city. And so that really helped my development as to what cities or counties or countries could actually be, because Taiwan, to me, a lot of artists say that, Paris is like their second hometown. But for me, Taipei, Taiwan is that second hometown because it's as close to a perfect city as I've ever been to, because of the fact that they have an amazing public transportation system, they have amazing healthcare system, and they have one of the best education systems in the world and one of the lowest crime rates in the world. And I believe that Jackson County could be that way one day if we actually invest into our county. And so that's one of the main reasons why I ran for Jackson County Executive, and I am going to run again for Jackson County Executive in 2026.
Awesome. So I was going to ask you, when you went from finance to law, was that like pretty much the scope of why you just kind of seen like the conditions in a different country, and you were like, there's some things that we can be enforcing in the United States or just in Kansas City alone that can kind of like change the trajectory of how people live? Is that what inspired you to move from one sector to another?
No, I've always wanted to be an attorney since I was in 4th grade. I always wanted to be of service to the community, to provide justice. There was a dream of mine that I wanted to be a Supreme Court justice, but now I do not want to be a Supreme Court justice. I do not want to be a judge. That's not my passion. And so the whole Chinese language was a really huge pivot in my life, because I didn't know that I would fall in love with Chinese, or even spend so much of my time to invest in Chinese in order to become a translator. And so the reason why I decided to come back to Kansas City was, one, I did university here, University of Missouri, Kansas City, but I was, this is actually a really interesting story. So in 2012, I was working at an international Chinese law firm called Jindu. It's one of the largest international Chinese law firms in the world, and they represent Chinese companies. And so I was a part of other foreign interns that came there, but I was the only person that had a background in Chinese language and cultures. And so I was helping the partner with translating documents and making sure that the Chinese version was the same or similar to the English version. Now, I say that because this is a Chinese law firm that represents Chinese companies. So they're dealing with American law firms that represent American companies. And one day when I was working there, my partner gave me these contracts, and he was like, oh, the deal is going to go through next week. You don't really have to read through them. Everything is fine. But if you want some extra work, just here's the Chinese version, here's the English version, make sure that they match. And I was like, okay. And so I spent 2 days going through the documents, and I had 150 notations afterwards. And I gave them to my partner, and one day passes by. There's no response. Another day passes by. There's no response. And I call him, and he's like, oh, I'll get to it. And then on the third day, I get a phone call. And the partner usually spoke Chinese to me, and he basically said, this is BS. And I was so confused because he was speaking English. And I was like, what? What's going on? And he's like, this is BS. I looked through your notes. We're canceling the deal. And so, and he's like, I'll talk to you later. And so an hour later, he comes, and he offers me a job at this firm. And at this moment, it was kind of a huge turning point where I was in Chaoyang District, which is like the financial district in Beijing, China. And I was given this opportunity to, be an intern there, get a position there later on, and literally live in Beijing at this law firm. And I kind of had a I kind of freaked out at that moment. And when I say freaked out, I had the realization of, what am I doing here? Because me being in China, I knew that I wouldn't be able to help my community in China. And so at that moment, I decided that I was actually going to be an attorney in Kansas City, Missouri, because here I can help my community, which I would utterly be unable to do in Beijing, especially in that company that represents Chinese corporations. So that was like one of my first calls to duty that I had in my life was in Beijing, and that's why I'm here today.
Wow, that's an amazing story. What would you say is like the most rewarding aspect of being an attorney in Kansas City and studying law at home?
So I first want to say that the practice of being an attorney is very hard. It's very taxing. Attorneys and doctors have the highest rate of alcoholism and suicide in the United States when it comes to like professions. But I think every attorney would agree with me to say that the best reward is when you're given a case that you believe that the result is not going to be that good for your client, but you're able to actually give them the best result possible, like a result that they wouldn't have been able to get without your help. And knowing that you changed their life is so priceless. And it's all about the little things. Because, for instance, I do civil litigation, but I also do municipal litigation, which is dealing with traffic tickets, these are low-level crimes. But helping people get their driver's license back is such a huge deal in our community, because you can lose your license for the littlest things. And there's so many people that they have a speeding ticket, they forget, their license becomes suspended. And this is when they're 16, 17 years old. They get pulled over by the police. Now it's a driving while suspended. Now your license is...
Yes,
yeah,
it's a spiral
yes.
of... Yeah.
And that's a $500 attorney fee charge, right? And so then when you call the attorney and they ask you, okay, what tickets do you have? You have 6 driving while suspended. You have all these tickets, and they say it's going to cost you all this money. It really devastates, especially the poorer communities. So with that said, is when I'm able to tell a person, hey, your license is valid. All you have to do is go back and take the test. Or when I tell a client, we were able to get you this great result in your personal injury case. When they believe that there was nothing that they could do, it's probably the most rewarding thing to be an attorney.
And what have you seen as the biggest flaw in either city or state government affairs?
There's so many.
I can imagine.
There's oh my gosh, there's so many. I mean, do you want to talk about Kansas City, Jackson County government, the state of Missouri as a whole,
wow,
the United States government? I think one of the biggest flaws is how inefficient we are as a government, and also even in the judicial system is how inefficient we are. And I'll give you an example. Our technology that we use in the court systems, in the government, I personally believe is 20 years behind. We haven't really invested that much into our technology infrastructure, and that's a huge problem because we have issues that could be resolved if we actually just modernize our technology. Like I'll give an example. So every year in Jackson County, Jackson County government is responsible for collecting taxes. And so one of the easiest things you should be able to do is to pay your personal or real property tax. But because of our infrastructure, a lot of people had to pay in person. And that resulted in these huge lines, people waiting for 4 to 5 hours just to pay their personal or their real or personal property tax. And that should never happen.
Yeah, especially when you want people to come out of pocket, arm and leg. Like, yeah.
Like, people missed time off of their work. People had to leave the line to pick up their kids, and they had to just reschedule for a new day. It's like we're living in 2025 now. They should have an option to do this online, but I think on that aspect, it is a leadership issue, because we have a lot of leaders in power that don't invest their time into fixing fixable issues because they don't feel that it's a problem.
And how can Kansas City residents become more like aware of their rights, or, you know, just like these issues that you're naming off, how can they, I guess, put in an inquiry or a comment, or, you know, how can they have more power into changing things so they can at least make it more accessible and easier for things to happen?
I honestly believe that people in Kansas City, people in Jackson County, they need to start paying more attention to local politics, because local politics is where in the local government is where decisions where the decisions are made, they most affect your life. And so they need to start being aware who their state rep is, who their state senator is, who their Jackson County legislative representative is, who the Jackson County executive is, in order, and what they do in order to make sure that they're doing their job correctly. And I mentioned those positions first because I believe that the average Kansas City person probably knows who the mayor is and who the city council is. But when it comes to our county and state government, a lot of the residents here don't pay as close attention to what's really going on in our county, in our state, as they should, because there are a lot of troubling things that are going on in the county and in the state that people should be paying attention to.
So basically, everybody, you need to get more educated about who is in these seats, for one.
And yes, and I'll give you an example. So you know how every year the city, the county, the state, we all have an annual budget we have to pass, right? Mm-hmm. Right now, the Jackson County government still hasn't passed their budget. They don't even have their proposed budget. And when I say their proposed budget, is usually around November. They release a more than 400-page document that shows, hey, this is our proposed annual budget. These are where the prior allocations were made, and this is where we want the allocations to be made in the next year. That still hasn't been released.
Oh, wow. I've heard of that, too. And that was like 2 or 3 months ago when I first heard about that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The thing is, the only document that's been released is a 9-page document that shows where the major buckets of money is going towards, which is not the annual budget. And this is very concerning. And recently, Frank White had to veto that budget. And it wasn't because the budget was improperly drafted, which I would argue is improperly drafted. It was because some of the Jackson County legislators were trying to amend the budget. Essentially, they're trying to gut the county executive's office, gut the county counselors, which is the attorney's office in the county, in order to transfer that money to their legislative offices to increase their salaries and their overall power in in the legislature, which is a huge issue. So right now we don't have a budget. We're operating on last year's budget. But that just shows that's just a little bit of the chaos that's going on in Jackson County right now that everyone should be paying attention to. But sadly, a lot of our media outlets do not cover these stories.
You know what? We were kind of getting to the point about your election, right? That happened in 2022 for Jackson County Executive. And you just brought up Frank White, and I'm like, hold on, that's who you ran against, right? Tell me more about this process. Like, what you got you started into running for the seat? Because I know it's pretty.
Yes. Yeah. So in 2019, we had a property tax crisis. And basically what happened was, so I live in Hyde Park. I've lived in Hyde Park as a resident since 2017, but I've lived in Longfellow from 2011. So I've been in the area since 2011. And basically I received my property tax assessment, proposed property tax assessment in 2019, and saw that they were going to increase my property taxes by 319%, which was a shock. But then I saw on Facebook and on Nextdoor how everyone, or I shouldn't say everyone, but the majority of Hyde Park property owners were given 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. The largest percentage increase I saw was 2,400% increases in their property assessed value. And so it created this huge chaos in our neighborhood because Hyde Park has a lot of property owners that are over the age of 60, and that also they live off of the retirement benefits. And so they weren't able to pay these increased property taxes, and they didn't understand why their house, which was previously valued at, for instance, like $250,000, was now being valued at $600,000, $700,000, $800,000.
Yeah, that is ridiculous.
Yes. And so I, as an attorney, I was called to action because a lot of people didn't understand the process of getting information from Jackson County, because so many residents wanted to know what the Jackson County government did in order to evaluate their properties. And so I created a sunshine law request, which sunshine law requests are, so the sunshine law is basically a law that states that the government has to give you information, like anything that's used by anything the government uses taxpayer money on, they're supposed to provide you with that information. And so I created a blank sunshine law request form and distributed it to my neighborhood and to all of Jackson County so that the average person could fill it out and make a request to Jackson County to see what they use in order to assess their properties. And when I did that, and I had to wait over like 4 months, which is ridiculous because in state law it's only 30 days, they only gave me 1 page of documentation.
Oh no, they tried to play.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, but they also did this with a lot of my other neighbors. And so we had meetings where Gail McCain-Beatty, who's the current county assessor, basically was stating, oh, the county's broke, the county has no money, which was a lie, by the way, which we'll get into later on.
They always have some money.
Yeah, they always have some money. But, I always tell people this. Seeing elderly people cry, that really triggered me. And so I thought to myself, wait a minute, who is the county executive? Like let me see what they are. And when I say they, I knew the county executive was Frank White, but I didn't know the person and why he was actually doing this in the community. And so I looked up Frank White's credentials, and I found out that, besides his baseball background, which we are not going to degrade his baseball background because he'll always be remembered as a legend in Kansas City, but he had no educational background. And when I say educational background, I mean like he never went to university, he never, received any major degree in business or any administrative degree. And so I thought to myself, I'm like, why is he the county executive? Which the county executive is essentially like the mayor of the county. They're responsible for the administrative duties of the county. And so I went out to the community. Since I'm an attorney, I know a lot of politicians just because of my trade. And when I say politicians, like people who are in the political realm. And I was asking multiple people like, hey, are you going to run for county executive? We need a person to challenge Frank White on the Democratic side. Are you going to run for county executive? You ran for this position before. And every single person I asked basically stated no. it's not my turn, or I can't beat Frank White, I'm not going to do this. I'm like, but he's causing so much harm to our community. And so I came back home, I laid in my bed, and the way that my mind works is an outline. And I was going through all the people that I knew and their credentials and whether or not they would make a good county executive. And then I paused and I said, I have the credentials to run for county executive. I can run for county executive. And this was in 2019. And so that's when I made the choice to run for county executive, to give my community a chance to decide if, and this is in the Democratic primary, if they wanted Frank White to continue to be the representative. Because if I didn't run, it would have been an uncontested seat. And so I decided to run in order to give my community a choice.
Right, yeah. So they basically just put him in there and nobody was willing to compete or to even try to get that seat.
Yes, which for me, it shocked me because there was so much harm done to the community because of the property tax assessments. And I talk about Hyde Park, but in eastern, so in on the east side, so when we cross over the Truce line, those properties that were especially targeted, and they were targeted again in 2023 as well, and those properties specifically are owned by minorities that make low income. And so a lot of people, because of this, had to actually sell their homes and move, which most of their houses were bought by flippers and then sold for higher value. And so it ultimately led to a gentrification of these communities.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is sounding like, what do you call that? Who was the guy who owns the whole Reese Nichols or
yes.
that J.C. Nichols, that whole redlining and
yes, and it's just kind of I was actually taken aback by the fact that no one was willing to run, and there was multiple times during my campaign where people that were Democratic insiders would call me and ask me to drop out of the race and be like, Stacy, you have no chance of winning, just drop out. And I always told them no, because I have to give my community a choice. And with that said, I'm so glad that I did run in 2022. I had phenomenal results. I was only 4 points away from defeating Frank White, and that's why I'm actually going to run again in 2026.
That's pretty good.
Yes,
for sure.
Yes, it was 29,000 votes. I won. I nearly won Kansas City. I lost Kansas City by 900 votes. But what really killed me in that race was Eastern Jack, which supported Frank White by an overwhelming margin of 3,000 voters. But at that time, I believe it was because they didn't understand. They saw Frank White still as the baseball star and never questioned his ability to actually lead the county. And then when the property tax crisis happened in 2023, a lot of people in Eastern Jack actually realized that, hey, maybe this isn't the direction we want to go with the county. And so because of that, a lot of people have been more interested in county government and trying to make sure that our representatives are actually representing our interests. And so I'm really excited. I'm really excited for 2026 for this race.
Yeah. And people have to realize, like, politics is not the popularity contest. Like, it is, but it shouldn't be.
Yes.
And if you're choosing who you're going to have in a chair, it should never be based off of popularity or what they used to do, especially with him being, an athlete. That has nothing to do with, how he feels about Kansas City and its residents. So,
yes.
Right. So
yes.
You guys, you heard the word. She's running next year. So make sure you do your due diligence to get information and to vote. To actually go out there and vote. Now, what are like some other responsibilities of somebody who's in the Jackson County Executive Chair?
Yeah, so they basically are responsible for, they oversee all the departments of county government. And also they are, so we have Jackson County that has cities within the county, but then there's parts of Jackson County that are unincorporated. So over the unincorporated zones, the Jackson County executive is essentially the mayor of those zones. And so they're supposed to provide services to those unincorporated zones and also represent the unincorporated zone's interests. And on that point, I want to say something really quickly. Earlier this week, I was invited to this area in Jackson County in the unincorporated zone called Blue Summit, which goes by another name called the Dog Patch. It's one of the poorest areas in Jackson County. And that area, they have no sidewalks. They have no street lights. They've never had those things for decades. And Blue Summit, it's called Blue Summit because it's on top of a hill. So basically, if you're driving up there in the middle of the night, you could literally drive off a cliff. And one of the leaders of Blue Summit has been asking for Jackson County to provide just street lights to that area. And Frank White's administration basically told them that they weren't going to do it because historically they weren't responsible for that area, which is a lie.
Wow.
And
that's definitely within Jackson County lines, though.
Yes, and it's an unincorporated zone. And so they're 100% responsible for providing that neighborhood with street lights, with sidewalks, with road safety.
But they crazy
refuse
to know
to
they don't have street lights.
They don't have street lights, and it's literally a sheer cliff. And I don't know if you are aware of this, but a Public Works employee actually died during the ice storm that turned into the blizzard because a Jackson County Public Works dump truck basically crushed him. It was a terrible incident, but it was in that area. And so those roads are dangerous, but the county administration refuses to invest any money into the infrastructure into those areas when they are bound by the charter to do so. And this is why I stress to people that they have to be paying attention to this county executive race in 2026, because it's not just, a lot of people are going to be paying attention to this because of the property tax assessments, but it goes more than that. It's who's actually going to bring our county to the modern era, and that is what I'm going to do as Jackson County executive.
Yes, girl, that is devastating to know that they don't have sidewalks or streetlights.
Yes, and they didn't even have access to sewer until a couple of decades ago.
But, oh my God!
Yes. But these areas are hardly ever covered by the media, and I just hope going forward more media outlets pay more attention to what's going on in county politics, because those are the issues that affect us directly, and we need to have more reporting about those issues.
And what area exactly is Blue Summit, just as an example?
Yeah, so Blue Summit is right in between Kansas City and Independence. So there's a little area that's unincorporated, and that's called Blue Summit.
Oh, my God. Yeah, you know what? And I can see that because it's on the outskirts, and I feel like the outskirts of the county, they are a little unforgotten about. So that probably is that uncharted territory that they are responsible for that you're mentioning.
Yes.
That is wild. I'm still not over that. That is like third world country.
Yes.
It's given.
It is. Yes.
And so you also have Residents First, right, as an initiative that's a part of your campaign.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that here?
Yes. So Residents First is basically my philosophy as a politician, is that when we're making decisions, we have to put the residents' interests first, not outside investors, not corporations. We need to put the people that actually live in Jackson County first, their interests first. And I made a plan called the Jackson Plan, which is an acronym for Justice System Reformation, Auditing Jackson County Government, Countywide Infrastructure Improvements, Keeping Taxes and Utilities Affordable, Small Business Initiative, Ownership Initiative for Single-Family Houses, and neighbor-to-neighbor transportation plan, which looked to establish the first rapid bus transit line in Jackson County, which would mean the first public transportation system in Jackson County. And we can talk about the KCATA later.
I was going to say, girl.
This would be the first actual modern rapid bus transit line system. And just as a caveat, our current bus system is not, for me, it's not a rapid bus transit line when we're looking at definitions. A rapid bus transit line is basically a bus. If I lived in Lee Summit and I was going to Kansas City, I would be able to take the rapid bus transit line and be there faster than actually driving my car. That is a quintessential rapid bus transit line. It's not getting a bus in Lee Summit and having to stop at 122 places.
Which is ridiculous.
Yes, which is ridiculous.
Or take you to Overland Park before it'll drop you off downtown.
Yes, but we don't even have that anymore. The
Right.
KCATA has been cutting their bus services, which is going to have devastating impacts in our region. And it feels just like we're going backwards. Like instead of we should have had a public transportation system, a legitimate one, in the 70s, but it was never done. And when they took away the streetcar, so when they dug up the lines, and now they're destroying our KCATA, which so many people rely upon, it's going to have devastating impacts for lower income zones, but it's also regressing our city when we should be looking to modernize it. And so that's why I always tell people you have to really be paying attention who you're voting for and what their focus is. And I say that because when Frank White ran in 2022, his only plan was to raise everyone's property taxes. He did not have a policy platform. He did not promise anybody anything. And which the thing is, the reason why people voted for him is because they trusted him because of his legacy. But hopefully in 2026, people will be more inclined to do research on these people to vote for the person who they believe would be their best representative in government. And hopefully I'll be able to get that vote.
Yes, very solid. We're going to continue the conversation here. So much good game in it. So much I did not know. And she is spanking me over here with words because I do need to get a little bit more politically inclined. And I mean, we know we have the election coming up. Do you have any other projects, initiative, anything else coming up this year in 2025 that we can kind of, support and look forward to that would kind of roll us into your election in 2026?
Yeah, so I have a Facebook page, which is Stacy Lake MO, as in Missouri. And every so often, I try to do it twice a month, but I have these podcasts called Let's Talk Jackson, where it's just me going live on the internet talking about Jackson County issues and what's going on in Jackson County. This Sunday, I will be doing a podcast that's going to break down what's going on in Jackson County government with regarding the budget crisis right now. But other than that, it's basically this year is just preparing for my 2026 race. I'm going to make the official announcement in April and start fundraising for my campaign. And so people can look out for that in April.
Where should we go if we want to donate to your cause, like a website in particular?
Yeah, so I haven't made my political action committee because I haven't been accepting donations. I will be accepting donations and having fundraisers when I make my announcement in April. And so in April, I will have that information. But right now, I cannot accept donations.
I was going to say, are we getting the exclusive right now?
Yes. Well, I'll be making my official announcement in April.
Awesome.
Yes.
Oh, I feel special. I'm not going to lie. Oh, my God. And you should feel special, too, if you're listening, because you just got the exclusive.
Yes.
We'll keep it on the low, though. Okay. I promise. And I just want to ask one random question, just because you have the attorney background. If you can change a law today, right now, and let's say state level, because you're repping the state, is huge.
Yes.
What would you change right now today?
Okay. I would say this. So, and I want to say this because right now I want to educate people. So right now in the state of Missouri, if you are a tenant and you rent an apartment or a house, and that contract has an exculpatory clause, which an exculpatory clause basically is like, it's all in caps. It's usually in a bold black ink, and it basically states you're responsible for your own safety, and even if the landlord does something negligent and you get harmed for it, you're going to be liable for all those costs, okay? Like liable for, your pain and suffering, for your injuries and whatnot. And if you sign that contract, which most people sign these contracts so they don't understand what's going on, that means you're essentially waiving your rights to a personal injury claim in Missouri. And the reason why that exists is because we do not have a statute right now that precludes that. So right now, there are probably hundreds of thousands of tenants who have signed residential lease contracts. So these are both for if you're renting a house or you're renting an apartment, that have these exculpatory clauses in there that precludes them from ever filing a civil case against their landlord for committing acts of negligence on their property and them getting injured for it. So I know I said a lot of big words there, so I'm just going to break it down.
Yeah, break it down for us.
For instance, you go to your apartment, you see that the tiles on the hallway are broken, right? You report to your landlord, hey, these tiles are broken. Can you have somebody to fix it? The landlord doesn't do it. Months pass, the tile isn't fixed. Now there's a huge hole in the floor, right? You go in to the apartment, you trip, fall in the hole, injure your leg, right? You sue them for negligence, saying, hey, I reminded you of this hole. It was your responsibility to fix it. You did not do it. And because of that, I injured myself. In Missouri, if you signed a residential lease that had that exculpatory clause in there, they could bring it up to the judge and say, hey, she basically stated that the landlord is not responsible for negligence. And because of that, she waived her rights to sue us for personal injury, even though we caused her accident with our acts of negligence. And the Missouri courts recognize that because they state that the Missouri government has to have a statutory law that defines the limitations to exculpatory clauses, which they don't have.
Right, that's crazy. And that even sounds sneaky. Like, why would they put a clause over a clause? And the clause is messed up in the first place. So it's like...
Yes. And a lot of these tenant contracts are usually given to people that come from low-income backgrounds, so they don't understand what they're reading. And so I state that would be the first one, because that's like the cleanest one to do. But I mean, there's so much injustice in our community that goes on right now, in the legal level, in the state level, in the governmental level. But in terms of if I could change something right now, that's what I would do, because I would affect hundreds of thousands of people in the state, and it would be for the greater good.
Yeah, that is crazy to know about. Like, they're banking on people not being able to read or understand their lease, or just hoping that they won't read it at all.
Yes, understand the scope of what they're waiving.
Yeah,
yes.
That is crazy. Yeah, well, thank you for mentioning that. So for you guys out here signing leases, does mortgages and things like that fall under for people who might be...
No, these are just
for renters.
Renters.
Yeah,
yes.
Make sure you're out there reading your leases from your landlords. And just to ask you, I don't know, just a regular question about you. How do you balance being a lawyer, a community activist, and also getting into politics? How do you stay well-rounded with all this on your plate?
It's a lot. I really don't have a life. And when I say a life, I mean like it. You know, being an attorney is a 24/7 job. And when I say a 24/7 job, well, actually, I should caveat that. In my practice, since I run my own law firm, it's a 24/7 job because I could be called at any time. My client could get arrested. I would have to go to the jail to help them get released, to post bond. An emergency could happen that I need to be on the scene of. And so basically, it's very hard. But the thing is politics I have a passion for. So it has become my hobby. It has become my occupation as well. And so I just try to take out time to do research, probably like 2 hours a day, in order to balance the two. But it's just dedication, and also knowing that the work that you're doing is helping the community, to give them the information that is hard to find, and to spread what's going on in our county government with the community. And that's always rewarding to me. So it's always worthwhile.
Right. Being a resource.
Yes.
And fulfilling your purpose.
Yes.
I like that. So what do you do, like, when you do have time to have fun? Like, what does fun Stacy look like?
Oh my gosh, I'm a huge nerd. And I say that because for me, board games, that's my number one passion in life. Is I love board games. The more complicated the rules, the better. And so I am a homie. I like to stay home. And I like to play board games with my friends, and that's what fun Stacy looks like, which is a little bit different from the norm, but I like it. Yeah.
And who has been like your biggest inspiration so far on your journey between politics and between being a lawyer? Like, who has kept you going the most, or just things that inspire you day to day?
Oh man. That's a tough question. I'm inspired by so many people. Right now, every time when I say this because I've just been thinking about him so much. I have so many inspirations. And when I say inspirations, I mean local inspirations. One of my biggest inspirations that I always think about every day is a community activist named Charlie Lona. He is from the West Side. He passed away last year due to cancer, but there's one thing that nobody can ever take away from Charlie, is that he was committed and dedicated to represent the interests of the people in the West Side. Like, he had such a burning passion, and he never got anything for it. Like, he never got any compensation for it. He was only there to make sure that his community needs were served. And that keeps, like, that's one of, like, he will always be an inspiration to me. He's always one of the drivers when I'm too busy or when I'm stressed out, when I just want to relax. I always think about Charlie, and he keeps me going.
He's almost like a blueprint to, like, help you kind of keep going, and somewhere you can kind of, like, lead in the footsteps. So
Yes.
That's what's up. I like that. And also, like, if you can give anybody advice, or like other young women that are listening, if you can give them advice on how to get into law, or maybe to find a purpose or passion within the community, what type of advice would you give them on how to start that journey?
Get involved with the community. And this is a call for everyone to get involved in the community. It could be anything small, from just attending a neighborhood association meeting, or helping with the community garden, or just reaching out to your neighbor and asking them, if they need any help around, their household, if they're elderly, or even if they're not elderly, if they need services of any kind. That's what I would say. In terms of getting involved into local politics, I tell people this all the time, is if you have the call, do it. Don't think to yourself, I don't know, I've never been involved in a political race. I don't know the political scene. if you have aspirations to run for office, just do it. You'll figure out. You'll be great at it, because we need more people in office that are actually there for the community and not there for their own self-interest.
Right. And where can we find like more information just about you and the rest of your political journey?
Yes, so I'm on Twitter/X. Facebook.
Don't you hate that they named it X?
I know,
like
it's so bad, and I feel like I'm becoming an old head where I'm just like, oh, it's not Twitter. I mean, it's not X, it's Twitter. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and when I go live, I'm also on Twitch. It's all under the name Stacy Lake MO. In April, when I make my announcement to run, my political website will be back live, since I'll have the Political Action Committee up, and that website is going to be jacksoncountyexecutive.com.
You're on air with Nikki Brooks, Kansas City's most connected radio show to date. Started in the community and now we are global. So check out the show archives on the OAWNB YouTube channel. And don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe.